Hi there. So if you're new to my channel, you probably may or may not know that the first videos I put up on YouTube were working on my old Mini, which is a 68 panel van, which I have here in my garage. And you might have seen I do a lot of audio stuff. So I've been recording for decades now, and it brings me to this. I've always got lots of projects on the go. Here I have a record that I'm making. So one of my projects I'm working on at the moment is making an old vinyl cutting lathe, because a lot of the music I do, people ask for vinyl copies of it again now. Just funny, it's come full circle. I was one of the first in Australia to get a CD recorder, and that changed my whole recording world, because all of a sudden I could deliver a hard copy of something that sounded great. And decades later, now people are asking for record again. So I'm making a vinyl cutting machine, and in order to actually have something to cut on, I've been using CD discs to cut onto. But if I stuff them up, I've come up with an idea to re-lacquer them, cover them in resin, let that dry, and then use them to cut into. So this is just a little attempt to see how it goes. I've basically used some epoxy resin, mixed it up, and poured that onto an old CD, which was badly scratched and worn out. And I'm going to spin this up for a day and see if it actually dries flat enough for me to actually cut a record into. So that's why I'm spinning it, just to try to keep it as flat as possible. So anyway, the real reason we're here today is back to the old Mini, which is named Melmo. And what I'm going to try to do is the door cards in here needs a paint. Obviously, it's all got the primer on there. I've got the engine out, which I've been painting, which I'll show you in another video. But I've done lots of body work. You can see it in my Melmo Mini video link, which I'll put below, so you can go and check out the series. Heaps of videos there, 50 of them, of all the work I've done it. Getting closer, I'm sort of at painting stage, but I'm working on what I'm going to do on the internals. And of course, it's 1968, so what's that, 55, 57 years old. The door panels are really grubby, so I thought I'd peel them off and then use the backing as a template. And I'm going to cut them out of this black checker plate, which I reckon is going to look really cool. And they're going to go on the inside of the doors here. So let's see how that works. I'm going to clamp this down, mark around it with a scriber, cut it out, and see how they look on the inside of the door. These are my original door panels. A bit ugly, it's sort of like they're totally stuffed now. But what I'm going to do with these is, I think I'm going to use some of this black checker plate and cut it out and use those for my door panels, because I reckon it'll look really cool with Melmo. Well, that worked well. I used a combination of this and this little saw for the fiddly bits, and just a pair of snips actually, because it's aluminium, so it's pretty easy. And yeah, my little sanding machine there, which was great. Actually, the angle was perfect for the edge here, so I was able to put this on here and grind that. So let's see how it looks in the door. What do you think? It's going to take a little bit of trimming and shaping. That's just masking tape, but a little bit of trimming and shaping to get it underneath the rail here. But it's going to be cool. I reckon it looks really nice. Yeah. Just have to drill these out for the openers, go like that. They're all going to get a paint. It's going to be all really slick. Looks cool, hey? Took a bit of grinding, but there we go. I reckon that looks cool. I like that. I like the sort of satin look as well. The second hole is for the wind-up window. If you didn't know, Australian Minis have got wind-up windows because of the heat, mate. Yeah. So now I've just got get another piece, and I might do the dashboard the same way. we'll see how we go. And I've also done the same for the rear sections as well. And I cut these out, so this will go on the inside, on that inside edge to protect the light where the fuel filler is, and the other one for the other side. And I'm going to do the dash the same way. I think even the floor inside, because I carted a lot of stuff around like drums and equipment, so I'll just keep a consistent look, make it look sort of a bit industrial and a bit like a racing interior. Simple but cool. And I'll decide later whether I paint them all black, but I like it, but they might chip easily. Anyway, we'll see. This is what I want to address next. So this is Malmo, the 68 minivan. The issue I always had with these rear holes in here, these were done aftermarket, and they're like a sliding window. You might have seen me pull them out in one of my old videos. The problem I've always had is that the seals were long gone and it always used to leak water, and the water would pour down inside and rust in this, just rust everywhere. It was a nightmare. So I really like the way the enclosed minivans look. So what I'm thinking is I'll make it so it's convertible. You can have both. So I'm going to enclose these sides. I'm going to make some metal sides. And what I'm thinking is I'll actually use riv nuts with screws in them so that I can easily remove the panels if I want. This is an Australian delivered van, but it had these weird custom windows, which I'll show you. These go in here. Oh, it's hard with one hand. These were like an aftermarket sliding window that the owner put in. I'm not sure, I think sometime in the 70s. And I can't remember who actually did these. There was a sticker on it at some point. But the problem is they leak water badly. So water gets in here and spills over. That's why I drilled these holes a long time ago underneath here to drain some of the water out. And I'm going to recondition them, put new felt in the runners and so forth. But I thought what I'd do is actually make it so I can actually put metal panels on the side. So I'm going to get some sheet metal, I'm going to trace around them, cut it out. And then using riv nuts, let's pop this out for a sec. I will be able to, just pop that down. If I use riv nuts, I will be able to make it so that I can pull them off and put just blank panels on with advertising or whatever, different colors. So I'm just going to put riv nuts in there like that all the way around, and they're just M4 riv nuts. So that'll be, 10-minute job just to unscrew that, pull the windows out, and what I'll do is I'll paint the whole thing first, then put these in so there's a little bit of a barrier between the stainless and the normal metal so that the corrosion slows down a bit, because dissimilar metals will cause corrosion. So if they're not separated, so I have some little nylon washers that are coming as well, which will go between on each side. But I think that'll be a good solution. And then my panel will actually fit against that, and we'll just have a little button head M4 screws to tighten it up. Yeah, that's the plan.
Flared arches? Yes or no on the flared arches? I'm not sure. What do you think? Might look cool, but I might need to put spacers because the wheels are in quite far. Yes or no?
So this is my solution for a car that can have both flares and non-flares. Because I don't want to do anything that I can't reverse easily later. So they go on there, and what I'm going to do is have it so I can remove them easily anytime I want. Because sometimes I like the way a non-flared wheel arch looks, but if I want it to really look like a Hot Wheels, then I need the arches. So what I'm doing here is I'm using these, which you can get, they're being remade again. These are an Australian-made wheel arch. Look really cool. And so they're not permanent, what I've done is I've created this clip system here, which is using riv nuts. It's very windy here, so you can hear lots of stuff falling on the roof, but they're basically, they just clip onto the rim, so you don't need to drill anything. All I'm using is a little mini angle bracket, which is 20mm by 3, so it's thick enough to be able to rivet. So on one side, what I do is drill it slightly so it can fit an M4 riv nut, and then that will go on the inside, and so that it has enough to rivet onto, I'm using 2 washers. So one on the back side here of the flare, so it's got enough meat, and one on the inside, which you might be able to just see inside there. And then I cut one of the other brackets in half on the edge, and that gives it this sort of like grippy lip, if you know what I mean. So then that will grip on to the edge of there. So I'm using 4, you'll see how that goes. 1, 2, 3, and 4, one on the edge as well. And let's see how that ends up looking. But I think that's going to be a great solution, and we'll see if they stay on nice and secure. Yeah. This is how they ended up working underneath there. I can shorten these bolts so they don't look ugly, and then enclose underneath here. But yeah, I reckon they look pretty cool.